Hi guys, welcome to another Blender tutorial, and we're going to be looking at some rendering engines, and this time we're going to be using Cycles Render. So I'm just going to show you how to set that up to create a render of a glass and water like what you can see here. So we previously modeled this glass and water in another short Blender tip that I did. If you have your own model, exactly the same applies. If you want to recreate this, then you can download the Blender project file from the link at the bottom of this video, or you can go to my tutorial on Blender Fluids and you can see how to create this. So I'm just going to go back to our starting position, which is here. So we have our glass object and we have our liquid object that we created previously. And I've added a camera into the scene. Now we're going to want to position that camera, so we're going to go to the camera view. We'll hit G and Y. We're going to move it backwards, and G and X, and G and Z. We'll move it up. And now in the camera settings over here, I want to adjust the focal length to zoom in. So something like this looks about right. Okay, just move it down a tad. Right. Okay, so now we have put our camera into place. Next thing we want to do is create a ground plane. So we have some ground underneath this object. So object mode, create a plane. Scale that plane up. Let's just go to our camera view, make sure the plane is filling our field of view. And then we'll go Shift D to duplicate, R to rotate, X-axis 90 degrees, and we'll drag it back. And we'll go to our camera view, make sure everything looks good. Yeah. Okay, so now we have our planes set up. The next thing we want to do is turn on our Cycles renderer. So up here at the top from Blender Render, you'll choose Cycles Render. And once you've selected that, we can start building our materials and applying them. So we're going to start off with the back here. We'll create a new material, and from the surface we're going to choose emission. So this will now emit light. So we're going to turn on rendered view, and you'll see that now we have a light coming from here. And you can change the color of this light that's being emitted, but we're just going to leave it at white. And we'll just drag it down a little bit so it's slightly gray. Okay, and then you can also play around with the strength of this light, so how much of the scene it's going to actually light. So I'm going to set this to around 3.4. Looks about nice. Okay, and now in the color I'm going to add in an image texture which I created earlier, and this image texture is just a radial gradient here that I created in Photoshop. Once you've selected that, under vector you're going to choose generated, and now we have that. Now maybe I will adjust the strength a little bit, make that slightly darker there. Okay, now I'm done with that. I'm going to choose the ground plane, create a new material. This will be a mix shader, and I'm going to have, sorry, as the first shader we will have glossy, and then as the second shader I'm going to have diffuse. So now I'm going to alter the mix of this until we get a kind of rough textured surface I'm going to leave that roughness low. I'm going to drag this. If you adjust the roughness of the glossiness, you can see it becomes like a mirror finish. We don't quite want the mirror, so we'll increase the roughness a little bit of the glossy. There we go. Okay, so now we've done that. Next thing we want to do is the glass. That's very easy in Cycles. We're just going to select our glass object, create a new material slot, and we select glass. And that's it. And the same also for our liquid. We're going to select the liquid, new material slot, and this will also be glass. Now all you're going to do in this index of refraction here is change this value, because water has a slightly different refractive value. So we're going to make this 1.22 for the water, and we'll go to now to our camera view. So that's how our image is looking. Now one final thing I'm going to do is select our glass, and in the color here we're going to bring that all the way up to pure white, and the same also here with our liquid. The color will bring all the way up to pure white. And now we're done. We can come over to our render and we can hit render, and it will render us out an image of our liquid being poured into our glass. So this is obviously by no means a finished image, but it's just an introduction here to how to set up and use Cycles. There's a lot more to it than this, which we'll cover in other tutorials. This is just a very quick how to set up and get up and running with Cycles and create a glass and a liquid object. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.